Good evening, everyone. I think we're gonna make a start. Isn't that Mike? Ari Kahn, and I want to welcome you all, the new faces, the old faces. Nice to see you back again, and for braving the Chicago weather. We just had a wonderful Shabbaton this past weekend, and we're really very excited here at TLC because we're starting to feel like people are belonging to TLC, and we look forward to having you at our other events coming up soon. We've got some exciting speakers coming up, and we've got regular lectures going on all the time. We're going to be developing new programs. We want to get your input in, so we look forward to spending time with you over the next few weeks and months. I give a class every Wednesday evening. It's a basics in Judaism class, and we've been going through the book of Esther. Some of you I know have been coming to my classes, so we're looking forward to this evening. But please encourage your friends who are interested in learning to maybe give us a call and maybe join us on a Wednesday evening. After Purim, we'll be starting a class on Pesach, on the Haggadah, and then we'll be doing another class on Chumash. And we're doing at the same time we do a class on beginner's prayer. So we really do have a wide variety of classes for you to attend. I'm not going to take up any more time because I'm sure Rabbi Kahn could go on for many hours. The book of Esther certainly is rich and deep with meaning, so I'm going to take no more time and hand you over to Rabbi Kahn. If you would like to take a look at one of these books on Purim, the book of Esther is at the back of the book, so when he does make reference to the book of Esther, you can use it. And if you are interested, these are on sale for $5, or you can give it to a friend that you think might be interested. Rabbi Kahn is also an accomplished author. His book on the weekly Parsha is for sale for $20, and he has some tapes for sale. He also sends out an email once a week. If you'd like to be on his email that he sends out, you can. That's for free, right? But Rabbi Kahn is a lecturer at Esher Torah in Jerusalem, and he's also director of the Overseas Students Program at Bar Ilan University. This is the second time we have him here at TLC, and it's my great pleasure to welcome back Rabbi Kahn.
I just think he enjoys introducing me. He says, "Here's Rabbi Kahn," and by the way, we're not brothers. We're not. A lot of people think we are, but we're not. And if what I expect to say tonight, I in fact say, then I have another volume coming out soon on holidays, which the tentative name is Emanations. If anybody is very opinionated, this is Explorations, that's Emanate. It will confuse everyone. If anyone is very opinionated regarding art and wants to help me on the cover, we have 5 different choices that we can discuss after the talk. Jews that are unaffiliated tend to know not that much about the story of Purim generally, and the book of Esther specifically. It's funny, the sort of things that unaffiliated Jews do are things like torturing themselves in Yom Kippur and Passover Seder, Rosh Hashanah occasionally. But there are some Jewish holidays which are quite happy. One of them is Purim. So I'm going to try to ruin that for you tonight and try to point out another side of Purim. It is a happy holiday. It's more than happy. It's a holiday which goes very deep into the emotional existence of individual Jews and the entire Jewish community. But the book of Esther, which, if any of you are involved in Jewish education, or you remember when you were educated as Jews, the book of Esther is taught in a very frivolous manner. It's taught that you have this wonderful beauty contest, a Jewish girl wins the beauty contest, no comments, that's not the miracle of Purim. What then follows, you're not supposed to laugh at that. If you laugh, then that's considered sexist. You'll get in trouble. You've been called worse. And this nice Jewish girl wins the beauty contest, and then before you know it, the Jews want to be killed, and then they get saved, and everyone lives happily ever after. And that's the story, more or less. Although, how many weeks you've been studying?
5 weeks.
5 weeks. So I hope that we've gone a little bit deeper. But if you think about it, there is a hero or a heroine of the book, Esther, and her life is tragic. I don't know any other word to describe, other than tragedy, what takes place in her life. The picture that we're told, or that's painted, is of, and when I describe the story, I will be using the biblical text together with rabbinic commentary. We're told in the Bible itself of a young girl who's orphaned. She loses her parents. She moves in with her uncle or cousin, depending how you understand this. It seems to be that there is a marital relationship between the two. And then comes this beauty contest. She gets taken, which is not that clear why she would be taken, because the people who are involved are only the single women. So if she were married, then her marriage is secret. Although we realize very quickly that secret is maybe the main word of the whole book. The name Esther means that which is what's hidden. The word Megillah, which means a tale, Megillat Esther, is also the unveiling of Esther. She goes in under an assumed name. Her real name is not Esther. Her real name, we're told, is Hadassah. So here we have a girl going in undercover in this beauty contest. Not that much is known about her, but let's be a little bit more honest and a little bit more sophisticated. Was this, in fact, a beauty contest? What were the rules of the contest? They lined up all the pretty young women, and the king slept with each of them. And then the king will decide which one of these women who he was sleeping with, who he wants to keep. Now, maybe I'm naive, and I don't know how beauty contests work today, but that doesn't sound like a very nice situation. And moreover, when I think of this nice Jewish girl who's put in this situation, I can't help but feeling there's something tragic. Especially this Jewish orphan who's lost everyone, and now she's being thrust in this situation. And what's her response? Does she want to win the contest? The response is quite the opposite. We're told that all these other women are asking for perfume and asking for makeup, because believe it or not, it sounds like every one of the other women want to win. By the way, if you win, what do you become? Queen. And if you lose, what do you become?
Concubine.
Concubine. So queen or concubine, which one sounds better to you? Queen sounds better. So either you get to sleep with this pig for the rest of your life and you get to wear some sort of royal garments, or you get to sleep with the pig the rest of your life and you're just with a bunch of other women, you're a concubine. Either way, this doesn't sound like a very wonderful situation.
Luckily, the king didn't live that long.
So fortunately, the king didn't live that long. By the way, it is not so simple how long the whole story of the book of Esther, how much time evolves from the beginning to the end of the book. It's not such a short amount of time either. But let me begin my questioning, and hopefully we'll get to some answers as well. Did she have a choice? Did Esther have a choice? She's ripped out of her home. You sense from how she responds or doesn't respond, at the very least you sense this feeling of at least, I won't even say ambiguity. She doesn't seem to be wonderfully interested in this. This is not what she chooses. But could she have done something else? Yes or no?
Yes.
What?
What could she have done,
Yes.
or why?
Yet what?
What? She could have chosen not to submit herself.
Correct. And what would have happened?
She probably would have been killed.
Right. Which means she could have spit in his face, called him a disgusting pig, and she would have been killed. By the way, if she would have done that, would she have been the first woman in the book who did such a thing? No. No. Which means here we have a very funny situation. Vashti, any of you remember Vashti? There's a hotel in Montreal which is called the Ruby Fooze. And I tell you, you stayed there? Next time you go there, look, there's a woman who works there who's Persian, and her name is Vashti. Okay? It's the only time I've ever met a Vashti. And I met her a couple of years in a row there. Vashti works there in the Ruby Fooze, and she's from Persia. I doubt it's the same one. I mean, she died fairly early in the book, but... Right? None of you ever met a Vashti aside from that, correct?
She could have hidden at home, though. I mean, she could have hid in such a way so she never would have been found in the first place. So she wouldn't have to go to the palace.
Which is all quite strange, because why was she allowed to be there in the first place? Mordechai tends to encourage her to go. You know, there's one more thing that we need to know. And this will require a little bit of a leap, but we need to really understand the situation properly. Judaism and Jewish books believe in such a thing called prophecy. Correct? Have you ever thought how great it would be to have a prophet living up the block? Would this be good? No, it wouldn't be good? A prophet telling you what to do, how things are going to work out, and always there to tell you, I told you so afterward. Do you think this is good? No, you don't want the prophet. She's saying it's bad enough having rabbis around. She does not want a prophet as well. You know, it's perhaps a little frightening. Can you imagine now that from the time that Moses took them out of Egypt, all the way through to the little story takes place, which is approximately 850 years, during that entire time they have prophets. And those prophets tell them what to do. And they tell them what God is thinking. They tell them what God is going to do. They've laid their choices down. You still have free choice. You can choose superficiality and doing what you want, or you can choose what God wants. I can't tell you the track record. Sometimes we listen, sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we followed the will of God, and many times we didn't. And we didn't, it was generally pretty bad. Even the destruction of the temple is there because we chose not to follow what God told us. But now for the first time something else happened. And what's that? Prophecy shut down. They're off in Persia. The long-range transmitters are not working. No prophecy. Can you imagine existentially what it must have been like for the Jewish community to no longer have an ability of knowledge what it is what God wants them to do? What's your next move? Again, it's one thing when I have the two choices, God's will, not God's will. This is tempting, right? This is the right thing. Okay, I have the choice. But now I'm sitting there in Persia, I don't know what the right choice is. And as I said, see, for us it's easy. We've been living our whole lives like this. We're here in a state of collective confusion. But in those days, the collective confusion was brand new. So the beauty contest takes place. I'm sorry I keep calling it that. So what do you... I'm sorry. What do you... The hearing should come back eventually. Sorry. But if you fall asleep again, I do... Okay, I'm kidding. That was the first time that they didn't know what God wanted them to do. So is it the better thing to send Esther and maybe get her in? Who knows? You know, is this God trying to help or not trying to help? Is it the right thing or the wrong thing? Who knows? Mordechai, who does not have prophecy about this. There's no, and God said to Mordechai saying, speak to Esther and tell her, go to the palace and have a good time. That is not there. Mordechai does not have prophecy. He has what we call Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh is a peculiar sense of the divine, where he feels in his guts that God is telling him that this is the right thing to do, but that's not 100%. He doesn't know for sure what's the thing he's supposed to be doing. He seems to feel that maybe this is the way, that God is eventually going to help him. But who knows? But as you said, Esther had a choice.
I thought in our studying that one of the commentaries said that she actually didn't go out for that there was like first the parade of choosing who to go to the palace, and that she didn't actually participate in that parade as such, and they took, someone saw her and just took her from her house. So in a way she, at least that commentary.
Correct. What we'll find when we look at the book itself is through the first 3-4 chapters, or from the time she's introduced for a while, Esther is absolutely passive. Esther is taken from here, Esther is taken to there, this is done to her, this is offered to her, she declines. She's passive throughout the first part of the book. At some point she becomes active. And those of you interested in literature, that's the turning point of the book. Right? It's as simple as that. Read through the book of Esther's passivity to the point that Esther takes control. That's the turning point. The whole book changes then. So when the commentaries come and say that not only was she not going out with the thing, that's consistent, because what do they sense in the book? That she does nothing. If she does nothing, she's inside. She doesn't want to win. But it's meaning whether factually that's correct or not, it makes no difference. But that is the story. The story is somebody who does not want to be there. So when I ask the question why she did not choose, and I'll be very harsh right now, why not choose death over humiliation? It's a choice that was put there. I mean, are you familiar with religious schools? Mm-hmm. Right? A very religious school is called the Beis Yaakov. Esther was a Beis Yaakov girl. She was an ultra-Orthodox girl who was about to get her big break in life and spend the rest of her life in a harem with a disgusting king. Why choose that kind of life?
Because as Jews, we have to choose life.
We choose life under all circumstances except for 3. The Talmud sets down, and what I'm saying right now is partially fair, because does she know this, does she not know this? The Talmud sets down that there are 3 things that we do, that we choose life over everything. If someone puts a gun to your head and says, eat a cheeseburger, what do you say?
I'll eat it.
You say, pass the ketchup, and you make a, right? Do you make a bracha? Do you make a bracha, Rabbi? Is it mutter then to eat? You don't? The religious people in such a situation make a bracha on the bread, and then say with the rest. You have to wash.
Wait a minute, I have to wash my hands before I have the cheeseburger.
But you do it for sure. Someone tells you to break Shabbos, we break everything. There are 3 things you don't. One is murder. The other is idolatry. And the third is sexual immorality. So now let me be careful, because this, and anybody younger than 30, you don't have to pay attention right now. Okay, and anyone older than 30 doesn't have to pay attention either. I don't want to be risque. But maybe part of the problem in the whole story is, how do you define sexuality? See, the Talmud tells us that Esther was not guilty, and when it brings up these 3 points, it brings up Esther's case. Why didn't Esther give up her life? The question is posed. So it says Esther was not involved in sexual relations. Esther was raped. Rape is not sexual intercourse. It could be physiologically. The doctors among us will argue it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. Why? Because one is completely passive, and the other is hopefully involving 2 different people. So therefore, what the Talmud is telling us is that Esther, because of her passivity, did not have to give up her life. Now we're getting very technical in this. Esther was not involved in illicit sexual relations. Why? Because she was just laying there and she didn't do anything. If this is how Achashverosh gets his kicks, wonderful, but she was not involved.
Yeah. Why then assume that she was married to Mordechai? Why put that in?
The Talmud, I know, the Talmud, well, it may, because it says that Lebias, right? It uses the word Lebias there. Yeah, and the word bias, she was his home. So she was his home, she was his household, and that is, shall we say, a very strong possibility if that's the meaning of the word over there. But that is the assumption in the Talmud that and you're right, it complicates it. Right. It makes we have more pathos because of this, and we'll get back to that. But it's interesting because we're taught also in the Talmud that the first temple is destroyed because the Jews were guilty of those 3 sins. They were guilty of murder and idolatry and sexual sins. So here's Esther. The story takes place right after the destruction of the first temple, or, to be more accurate, between the destruction of the first and the building, or maybe even the completion of the second. She knows why the first temple is destroyed, and now she's being put in a situation where, as I said, you have a life of humiliation. Meaning, had she chosen to call him a disgusting animal and screamed and fought and bit and scratched, and she would have been killed, would we have lost respect for her? She would have retained her dignity.
But you wouldn't have known about
One second, correct. She would have retained her dignity as she chooses death.
What would that have been, though? I mean, that wouldn't necessarily have been a rightful death, though. I mean, because up to that point, I mean, she's being ushered in to be paraded in front of the king, but she doesn't request anything, so she's hoping that she'll be turned away. So at that point, she's not asked to worship an idol, she's not asked to murder anyone, and she's not asked to have an immoral sexual relationship.
We'll go back to the third one. She knows now that she is about to have a lifelong contract to be in the harem. Again, technically, she's being passive. Technically, she's not doing anything. But again, is this a good career move for a nice Jewish girl? A place in the harem? And by the way, we see that the other women wanted it. This is great. You live in a harem, you have no problems in your life. Every now and then, this guy, you want to be with the king, and you know what? They're probably happy to be with the king. You get to spend some quality time with the king. Go get drunk and party with the king. Okay, it's your turn. I mean, this is not something which bothered the rest of the women. They put on the best makeup they could. They wanted to win the contest. She's the only one there. She's not terribly interested in it. And as I said, that her lack of interest is described by her passivity, by her choosing nothing and being taken against her will. And what I'm really asking is, why did she not make a decision, do something proactive, do something which will cause her death? And now, again, let me make a couple of arguments. One is, I already said, she retains her dignity. Second, you can speak about things on more nationalistic terms, that the temple is destroyed because of sexual morality, therefore she will not even be involved in, shall we say, a questionable relationship, and rather choose death. And she can see it as being something which is helping the community by choosing that death.
So is that
And finally, just one second, and finally, and here I want to be very careful because there are too many martyrs around in this world. But also in Judaism, we know of such a thing as a martyr. Had she been killed because she guarded herself against his advances, would she have had the respect and admiration of the entire community? I believe. If she died defending herself against Achashverosh, the Jewish community. The Jewish community.
Probably nobody would have known. No, I don't think so.
If the see, so that's interesting. Do they know or they not know? Just one more second. So let me add a third element then. If she dies because of her Jewish beliefs and dies because she refuses to do this, my sense is that her share in the world to come, which is a very important issue for Jews, would have been assured, and therefore she gives up this life. And as far as the next world goes, and I know that the discomfort that some of us have talking about this, and so on, because there are people who allow themselves to get killed. Although I think it's a very different situation. It's not going in and killing a bunch of innocent people. It's standing her ground and letting herself be killed, and therefore choosing martyrdom, and being assured a share in the world to come, rather than do something which she deems to be morally questionable at best. That's the beginning, as I said, of the story and of our tragedy. Yes.
I mean, I guess I see her actively choosing to be passive, if that makes sense. Because if it wasn't for what she did and what Mordecai did, we probably wouldn't be here right now even talking about this. The Jewish race might have been eliminated.
I'm not judging. I'm just making an observation. I feel like home in Israel now.
Perhaps she had the Ruach HaKodesh to know these things.
We'll get to the point that she assumes her Ruach HaKodesh. What we see till this point is a passivity. We don't necessarily see a plan. We see she doesn't want to win that contest. Meaning, if she felt that this is a good thing for her to win, then shouldn't she have done a little bit more and try to be a little bit more alluring? You realize, of course, the irony in the story. Why did she win the contest?
She wasn't overdone.
Because all the other women were trying too hard. All the other women were wearing too much makeup, too much perfume. And in comes Esther. She's a breath of fresh air. She's got the natural look. And what else? You have to, of course, appreciate the male psyche here. She plays hard to get. The rest of them are throwing themselves at it. Right? Ladies, pay attention, especially the single ones. The rest of them are throwing themselves at Achashverosh. And she is shy, outwardly disinterested.
She's a woman of mystery.
She's a woman of mystery. She's a woman. He doesn't know where she's from. Correct. And you put all these things together, and now he's absolutely smitten. Of course, because of all the reasons that she chose, because she didn't want to win. So that's this wonderful catch-22.
So
yes, Esther.
Yes, you absolutely feel that just knowing that she potentially could be put in that position, because at that point, you know, is she definitely 100% going to be put in a position to have to sleep with the king? So I don't know that myself yet could justify her walking in, spitting in his face before anything happened. I could see maybe it happening once and her saying, I can't live my life like this, so now I'm going to spit in his face and cause myself death. But to do it before anything happens, I don't know.
If you wanted after the first time, I'm fine with that also.
I just don't see it being justified.
My point is, before the first time they're told that whoever wins the contest becomes queen, the rest of them stay in the harem the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So as I said, this is, as far as Esther's concerned, it's a lose-lose proposition. As far as everyone else is concerned, it's a win-win proposition. Everyone else is excited and happy about it, and Esther is devastated because of it. Yeah.
Well, and didn't Mordecai, though, encouraged her?
And Mordecai tells her, go. So what we have over here is Mordecai is saying go. We sense that Mordecai senses that there is some kind of act in God involved in this, that there must be something good which will come of this. Does he have clarity? Does he have prophecy? Does he know that this is what must be? No. Does he know that he's right? Does he know? Did Mordecai read the book of Esther before? No, he doesn't know how it ends. We know how it ends. We have that advantage. He doesn't know that. And again, realize how frightening exile is physically for the Jewish people. I'm just adding in one more element. Realize how frightening exile is spiritually for the Jewish people, because they're cut off from God and they don't know what God wants. They don't know how to get back home. Okay, that is the beginning of our story. Vashti, by the way, I don't know if you're familiar with this. In feminist literature, Vashti's a hero and Esther's a loser. Okay, if you want to pursue this and read more feminist Jewish literature, why is Vashti a hero? Because here's a woman who decides what she's going to do with her life. Well, Esther, they say, look, she listens to him, she listens to him. This is not the kind of hero that we want. I personally prefer to see Esther as a great woman, as a great Jew, as a great Jew and a great human being. But as I said, there were those who attacked her severely for this, and they saw in Vashti's decision, although let's also be honest, Vashti was she was a queen. Vashti did not like, you know what, let's hold that for a second. We'll try to understand why Vashti did what she did, but it's a little bit more complex. She's no tzedekah, so we'll just put it that way. But I think that the advertisement over here is we're going to do something mystical also, right? We have to do something mystical, else you guys want your money back. One of the great Hasidic masters of the 19th century was Rav Tzadok HaKohen from Lublin. Rav Tzadok was a first-class mystic. He wrote many books. His books are all complex. They're all stream of consciousness, where he goes from one thing to the next. And one of his books, Tucanos Shovin, which is a book about tshuva, repentance, he gives us another insight into the book of Esther and the tragedy. He tells us that moment when Esther decides to go into Achashverosh's palace, at which point does she decide to go in? At which point does she initiate? Let's go back and appreciate the story one more time. A plot to kill the Jews is unveiled. Mordecai knows about it. He tells Esther, do something about it. Esther at this point stops being passive. What does she say to Mordechai? You and all the Jews go and fast me for 3 days. For the first time, she takes initiative. Now she's telling Mordechai what to do and no longer just being told what to do. And she says she's going to go in to see the king. And then what does she say? Kasher avadati avadati, which means in English, if I'm lost, I'm lost. And what does that mean if I'm lost, I'm lost? Kasher avadati avadati.
If I'm supposed to die, I will.
It's a very sad statement, and maybe we need to penetrate it. Kasher avadati avadati. I've lost, I've lost. What does she lose?
She loses her life and her people.
According to Rav Tzadok HaKohen, at the moment that she walks inside, she's no longer being passive. In fact, when she goes inside now, she wants to get on the king's good side. What do you think she does when she walks in that time? Do you think she puts on a little makeup now? Do you think she now puts on a little perfume? Do you think she now walks in and gives Achashverosh this big smile? This shy girl who's been running away from Achashverosh now has to have a reversal of roles. Now she needs more than anything else for Achashverosh to want her, to love her. Do you think she seduces him at that point? I mean, how sad this is. A girl who's so innocent and so foreign from sexuality, within a mere couple of chapters, to flip it around and now to use her sexuality in order to control this man, and in his hands is the future of the entire Jewish people. She doesn't see that she has a choice. But now she's no longer being passive. Now she's no longer being raped. Now you have a married woman who's going in and trying to seduce another man in order to save the life of her people. Now that itself is a fascinating question. I'm not going to get into the law. I can assure you that we can have a whole discussion on the history of Jewish law regarding that question, including case law, chapter and verse, when such things happened, and how the rabbis dealt with such questions. It's not simple. I think I'm going to give this talk on Shabbos if anyone's interested. You're certainly welcome to hear the talk. It'll be in Long Island. Okay?
Wasn't she also a mother at this time?
Not as far as we know.
Because didn't her son take over when he was
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to be at this point. Again, as I said, the whole chronology of the book is an interesting, challenging point. And it's not clear which Darius, there's more than one. Let's leave that aside. If you put them in water, they stop. Okay. Done that? According to Rav Tzadok, at the moment she goes in and willfully uses her sexuality in order to save the people, she loses her share in the world to come. This is what Rav Tzadok says. Now that's a very difficult statement, because she loses her share in the world to come. Well, I can bring up another point. Is she therefore right or wrong for doing it? This is a sort of question that's going to give you a headache, because could there be something which is the right thing to do, but has terrible connotations to it or implications from it? Rav Tzadok says at the moment that she goes in, that is what she's saying. Kasher avaditi avadi. Listen to the pathos now. As I've lost this world, I'm losing the next world. As I'm lost, I'm lost. I lost this world, it's no picnic. This is not the way I want to lead my life. I've lost the next world now. I don't have anything. But, she says, it's all worthwhile, because this will save my people. Right? Easy, everyday decision to make.
But Mordechai forces her into it.
Excuse me?
Mordechai forces her into it.
Mordechai forces her into it. Let me, you know what? Let me go even further. Let me go even further. There's a psalm, Psalm 22. Lamenatseach ala yelet hashachar mizmar LeDavid. translated to the chief musician according to the Ayelet HaShachar. Anyone know what the Ayelet HaShachar is? The morning star? Is that how you translate it? The morning star. According to Talmudic tradition, who is the morning star? Esther. And we're told that this psalm was written by King David prophetically for Esther. What does the next line in the psalm say? Eli, Eli, lama azavtani. My God, why have you abandoned me? Listen to what the rabbis say. This is a Medrash in Tehillim, the rabbinical commentary to Tehillim. Eli, Eli, lama azavtani, my Lord, my God, why have you abandoned me? Eli b'Yamsuf, my God who was there by the splitting of the sea. Eli b'Sinai, my God who was there at Sinai. Lama azavtani, why did you abandon me? Why the splitting of the sea and Sinai? Why those two references? Because the splitting of the sea is when God showed his might, defeated the enemies of the Jews, and they drowned with this incredible miracle. Why God at Sinai? Because Sinai is the source of all revelation. God who tells us what he wants of us, why by me is there silence? God who can do miracles, why now are there no miracles? Why have you abandoned me? Lama nishtanu alai sidro shel olam. Why regarding me has the order of the world changed? Visiduran shel imahot. And the proper order of things that happened by the matriarchs. Uma imenu Sarah, ayedeshen ishbeit el paro laila achad. Remember Sarah? She was taken by Pharaoh, and she was in that house one night. And what happened that one night?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. The Zohar is beautiful when it describes it. It says that an angel entered into the bedroom, and every time Pharaoh made a move on her, he got smacked upside the head with a 2x4. After a while, he said, you know what, I think I have a headache, I'm not in the mood. And it ended like that. Sarah was in the house of Pharaoh one night. The Torah tells us that he and his entire household was struck. Shenemar, and it quotes the verse. Ani, and then Esther complains. So you're allowed to pray to God and complain every now and again. She turns to God and she says, Ani, she'ani nituna bitoch chiko shel oto resha, kol hashanim halalu, and I have been stuck in the bosom of this wicked man for all of these years. Einata ose iminisim? For me, you don't have any miracles left? By the way, this is a terrible reference, which just says culturally where I come from. You know what this reminds me of every time I read this? Reminds me of the Wizard of Oz. Do you remember the end of the Wizard of Oz? You don't have any miracles, right? You know everything. What about me? You don't have anything left for me? I apologize for that, but that's what I always remember. You all brought up on this also, I see. Excuse me?
And he said he must have been a scholar. Oh, more than that. He was insightful.
Einata ose iminisim? For me, you don't have any miracles left? Eli, Eli, lama azavtani. My God, why have you abandoned me? She then adds in another statement. It says in a couple of verses later in that psalm, Mi beten imi Eliata. That's the 11th verse of the same psalm. From my mother's womb you've been my God. Lama shalosh pamim. Why does it say my God 3 times in this psalm? Amra Esther lefnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. Esther said to God, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, Shalosh mitzvot natata li. You've given me 3 commandments. Nida v'chala v'adlakat haner. There are 3 commandments given specifically to women. One are the laws, the purity laws, going to mikveh and so on. The second one is the laws of separating challah from the bread, which is why we call the bread we eat on Shabbos challah, and adlakat haner, to light the candles Friday night. Afal pi shani b'bayit rosh hazeh. Even though I've been living in the house of this wicked man, I've kept these 3. I've never broken any of them, she says. Can you imagine what she's saying over here? The rabbis are describing that Esther would prepare for the perpetual rape on her body by going to the mikveh and getting herself spiritually elevated. Here's a woman who never lost faith in God, but she questions. She says, why has the world changed? Why for me are there not any miracles left? Why do you have all these wonderful miracles for everyone except for me? And then we begin to appreciate the tragedy of Esther. And then you take on top of this Rav Tzadok's observation, should not only is this life destroyed, this innocent, beautiful young girl being thrust into this ridiculous situation when she had a way out. And now we're told that because she made this choice, because she's going to try to save the entire community, the only possible downside is that she loses her share in the world to come. By the way, one of the beautiful things about Rav Tzadok, I told you, it's a stream of consciousness.